Good evening, everyone. I hope my voice is reaching you guys loud and clear. If so, please type a yes on the chat, which can give me a go ahead and we can proceed. Hope my voice is reaching you guys. Let me know through the chat box. All right. Thank you, Harshavardhan. So, a warm welcome to all of you who have joined in for this session on the writing section of IELTS. Before we go ahead, let me introduce myself. I am V. Kritika Krishna, one of the IELTS experts here at Leverage IELTS. This session is powered to you by Leverage Edu. So, before we get started, I'm pretty sure that you are aspirants for IELTS and must have so far planned when you want to take the examination. So, if you have already decided the date or taken it, or you may even have plans to take the exam in the coming weeks or maybe in a couple of months, let me know if any date you have decided. If so, please let me know through the chat. When are you taking the exam? Is it anytime sooner or later? Let me know, please. If you've taken a date, you can mark the date or next month. Okay. All right. And is there anyone who has already taken IELTS before? Anybody? You can type a no if in case you haven't. If it's going to be a first time experience, let me know, please. Should I consider it a no? No one has taken IELTS before? Okay. Thank you for letting me know, Harshavardhan. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. The session that we are going to have today would be pertaining to the writing part that you're going to get in the examination. So we know that there are 4 communicative skills which will be assessed, and writing is one of the sections which can be a bit dicey for many test takers. So first, allow me to explain to you what do you get in this particular test in terms of writing. So an overview to writing, here we go. We would have a test of 60 minutes in this part where we'll get 2 different questions to answer. Now, these 2 questions, ideally, one we'll call considerably shorter than the other one. So, there is a task that you get where you write something which is of word count minimum 150. And there is another task where you write more, which is for about 250 words. So the 2 tasks that we get, the terms that we use in IELTS would be academic writing task 1 and then task 2. So your task 1 is going to be for 150 words minimum. So please note that you can write more than 150, but it should never be less. So that's a requirement of the question. And the second one is going to be an essay. So we'll get only 2 types of questions, academic writing and an essay writing task. So today we will get a little more insight to what is there in academic writing task 1. So anybody who has an idea what kind of task it could be? I know that you guys have marked that it's for the first time. Hello Arsh, hi Purti. So is there anyone who knows what is going to be there in the first task? Second one is an essay, I told you. What's the first task about? Any idea? Data. Right. Okay. So, primarily, the first task of writing that you're going to get some kind of charts. Now, these charts, if I classify them into the types that you can get, there can be charts with numbers or charts which have as an image that you can see. So, to be a little more specific, we can get graphs like line graphs, bar graphs, we can get pie charts, or we can get tabular data. So, when I say the word data, it's going to be some type of information with numbers in it. And then there are other type of charts where we can simply see images. These images could be possibly maps of a particular location, like a before and after, or it could be stages which are involved in a particular process. Something is happening, some product is being produced or maybe manufactured, and you see the stages. So typically there could be data which can come with numbers, where you may have line graphs, bar graphs, pie charts, or tabular data. Sometimes even a combination of charts can also be there. When I say combination, there can be a, let's say, bar graph and a pie chart. There can be a bar graph and a tabular data. That can also be there. So ideally, what puzzles test takers is how, what should be the right approach to go about it. And the most perplexing of the chart types would be the ones where you have numbers that you can, prominently see. So today I'm going to talk about those charts where we have numbers. So if I repeat, what are those charts which have numbers? Charts which we see in the form of line graphs, bar graphs, pie charts, and tabular data. So normally the charts that you get with numbers, they would surely have some kind of a time reference. Now this time reference could be a time indication of the past, sometimes even future, or even a flow of time that you can see. Let me explain this. So there could be a lot of graphs and pie charts that you guys might also have seen, maybe in books, magazines, and even newspaper. Couple of examples could be pollution, how much pollution has been there in many cities, for instance, especially Delhi. Or let's say the population rate of different countries for a particular year, or maybe for a time period. Or maybe it could be, let's say, crime rate in a particular city. Let's say crime rate in India in the year 2015, for instance. Or maybe it could be different type of crimes that have taken place in India for a particular time period, and you have the crime segregated. Let's say theft, chain snatching, robbery, so on and so forth, and you have a data. So primarily, what do we see? We see what has been the population rate, or we see what has been the crime rate, how many types of crimes have happened in a particular city or country which is stated. Or maybe we could see, for instance, you have information of a university, and it shows what has been the number of students getting admitted in a particular course. It could be for one particular year, let's say 2010, or it could be the number of students which got enrolled from 2010 to 2020. So now there can be two types of charts with numbers where the time reference could be different. One time reference is called single, when I have only 1 year, one point in time mentioned to us. Or it could be a period of time. Like I gave you an example of 19, let's say 2010 to 2020. So for a decade, what has been the admission rate? Are we able to follow? Charts with numbers, either with one point in time, or it could be for a period. Are we able to follow till here? Hope yes. This can seem to be kind of a complex, task type, but then you need to just keep certain things in mind, and then it would be a bit simpler. Sure, we'll address that in a bit, Ursh. Now I'm going to address a couple of things related to the charts with numbers, so we'll definitely address this in a bit. So talking about these charts, we also call them statistical charts, because what do we see is statistics. So when you have any kind of chart, now there are certain things that the question tells us. It says summarize the information of the chart by selecting and reporting the main features and write at least 150 words. This would be printed to you. So one of that puzzling questions could be, what do I write? So please note that in this particular question, you are not going to write anything on your own with your own imagination or your opinion. You only write what you see, number one. Number two, now you heard me say the word main features. Now, what's a feature? So, some terms that you should know: feature, figure, trend. These three are really important when it comes to charts with numbers. Anything that you see on the chart, any particular information that you see. For instance, I have a chart that shows me the admission rate in a university for the subject chemistry, and it shows me the number of students enrolled in that university from the year 2010 to the year 2020. So everything that I see, that what's the number in 2010, what's the number in 2011, 12, 13, 14 till 20, you see certain figures. Let's say 2010 it was 5,000, 2011 it was 5,500, and then it kept changing. And then 2020, the final year, I have some figure, maybe let's say 20,000. So from 5,000 to 20,000. So each year, the information that you see, it's called a feature. Now, what's the figure? Figure is the number. 5,000, 7,000, 8,000, 20,000. These are the figures. So now you may ask, okay, these are features and figures. Now, what's a trend? Now, in a chart with numbers, we need to depict trend as well. How do we pick it? What do we write? Typically, if you have anything flowing in time, like from 2010 to 2020, it's very easy to analyze it. But the complication comes when we look at a chart, at a glance, when we look at it, we might find, oh, there are so many years. So if there are 10 years, there are 10 points. Not really. So, essential or main features are which ones? When it comes to period of time, is the first time reference and the last time reference. What do I mean? If it is 2010 to 2020, your most significant information that you need to look at to identify the trend is to look at these two features. What are these two features? The starting point and the ending point. So if it's the graph starts with 2010 and ends at 2020, these 2 points are supremely important for us. Note what's the pattern. So let's say in the year 2010, the number of students enrolled was 5,000. And now you look at 2020. Forget what happened in between. When you're looking at it, the most essential feature, now look at 2020. Now, the figure that we see in 2020 is 20,000. So from 5,000, the figure went to 20,000. Now, my question to you is, here comes the point which we say trend. What is the pattern that you observe? Even if I have to draw a line, if 5,000 is here, 20,000 will be going up. So the trend here is of an upward pattern, or a rise, or an increase. Can we follow this? So it's called an increase or a rise or an upward pattern. Whereas if from 5,000, year 2020 has the figure 1,500, so then it is dropping. So this is called trend, everybody. So features are every little detail that you have in the chart is called feature. When you are going to use the numbers along with it, it's called figures. And the trend is the pattern that we notice. And that pattern in a chart which is flowing with time could be a pattern of rise, could be a pattern of fall. Sometimes the start and the end, you might see it is the same. Or maybe throughout it is the same. So that's called stable. Or it has a lot of fluctuation. That's called an erratic pattern. Whether it is erratic or in between there is a period of stability, the start and end, you would most likely observe that there would be an upward or a downward pattern or a trend. These things are what we need to look at when we get a chart like this. So if you have any chart which is flowing with time, ensure you're looking at the start and the end first. There can be graphs or tabular data, whatever you get, which can have multiple countries or multiple entities given to you. So ensure you are looking at each. So let's say if it is same university, but you have, let's say, chemistry, you have physics and biology, three subjects given to you, you'll have to see what is the pattern for each of the subjects, and that's what you're going to write. So this is called picking the trend for a chart which is flowing with time. Now, what if I don't have a flow of time, but I have only one time reference? Then most significant information for us would be what's the highest and the lowest value. So we also called a chart which is static. There's no flow of time. So if it is only for year 2010, and you can see that the admission rate has been given for different subjects. So then you see which subject has the most number of students, which subject has the least. Here you do not have any rise or a fall because there is no change in the time period. And that's one of the common mistakes that people make in writing. They use a different lingo, which is not applicable. So for a chart which is for one time reference, pick the major, minor, highest, lowest, the highest and the least values. And for a chart which is flowing with time, we look at the first and the last and decipher, is it a rise, fall, steady, fluctuating. These are the things, these are called picking the trends. So, how would you further write? When you further write, ensure that when you're picking the information, especially when it is a chart flowing with time, when you're describing the information with figures, you don't have to write the figures for everything. This brings to me, this would with this, I would like to also introduce what are the challenges you might face. One of the most significant challenges that you're going to face would be not knowing what to write. So, this is what you need to pick: start point, end point, and see what happens in the mid period. And in that mid period, also, either you would see the numbers fluctuating, steadily rising, gradually falling. This kind of a pattern you would see. So, notice that, which is what you need to put in your answer. Another challenge could be that you're not able to decipher what to write, so you write everything, and that's where you're going to lose marks. So if it is a period of 10 years, you're not writing 10 points, everybody. You're not going to write 10 points for every year. You have to only select the main features. What are the main features? This is what I told you: picking the start, end, and identifying the trend that is visible in it. Trend of growth, trend of a downfall, trend of the figures plateauing or being highly unsteady. You have to pick that, and that's what you're going to present. If you don't do so, what you would finally face, eventually you would end up writing everything, and you would notice that you're taking more than 20 minutes. If any one of you who has already registered for the exam or planning to take, and you might have tried a few samples, you might have noticed this, that you end up writing everything and it's taking more than 20 minutes. And what would happen as a result? In your second question, which is an essay, you would have a major challenge in completing the task on time. Sometimes it may go incomplete. So, this particular question, we really don't need more than 20 minutes to be devoted. 20 minutes is more than enough. And with that, remember that you need to write paragraphs divided properly. Let's say we have four different paragraphs. Your number depiction that we are talking about, 5,000 to 20,000 or 5,000 to 3,000, these all numbers or figures that need to be written should ideally be in your last two paragraphs. So if you're writing four, the third and the fourth paragraph would have the number references. Don't mention it in your first paragraph, don't mention it in your second paragraph when you're writing. We need all these details later. And with that, keep in mind that data, that is the numbers that we have, it cannot be reflected everywhere for everything. So you need to be selective. And I hope this chart type that I discussed, which is charts where you have flow of time. This was an example, a chart where you're depicting something from 2010 to 2020, which is a period of 10 years. How do we take the elements? So start and end to be noticed, and the pattern has to be derived. Hope you all understood this. Plus, when you're going to finally write, before that, now if you have 20 minutes, my suggestion would be that you would require initial 2 to 3 minutes to evaluate the chart. What is it showing to you? What is there in that chart? Take all the elements, take the essential features that you must address, and your writing should not take you more than 10 minutes. So 2 to 3 minutes you should spare for analyzing the chart and picking the right information and then putting it in the right number of paragraphs. and then have at least 5 minutes to review what you have written. Because no matter what kind of user we are at English, we might have many petty errors, which could be spelling mistake, maybe typo errors, maybe we missed a word, writing a word also. So all these things could happen. And keep in mind that the tense in which you write should match the time period which is given to you. Most likely it is past, 2010 to 2020, but there can also be cases where you get from 2010 to 2040. So one part of your chart also shows you future projections. So keep in mind that your data that you're depicting or any statement that you're making, the verbs that you use should match the time period. Am I making it clear, everybody? Hope you're able to understand this. These charts require you to be a bit analytical, but then it's not difficult to write them if you do the right kind of practice by being more familiar with the types of charts. This is one type. There are many other types. But in this type, this is how you're going to pick information. And ensure that whatever you are writing, like I mentioned before, there is no opinion coming in between, because that's not what is asked. In 20 minutes, this practice has to be developed where you are writing within 20 minutes and not giving it 25 or 30, because your essay will go for a toss, right? So keep these pointers in mind, and hope that this picking information for a chart which is flowing in time is clear to you all. See, for idea generation, Ursh, I will also just mention the query that Ursh has. If you have difficulty in idea generation, you need to read a lot of samples and develop a habit of reading. Most questions that you get in IELTS, these topics are mostly repeated. They are cliche topics. So if you work on them, I'm sure that with a continuous habit of reading, you will be able to overcome this challenge of not getting ideas, right? This can be easily overcome, but it would take time. It's not a one day wonder. So that would be all from my end here today. I would like to share with you our team's number just in case you need any further assistance, and watch out this space for more such informative lessons which our pool of experts would come up with. And you can also see many other lessons which are already posted, and let us know if you will be needing any further assistance. We'd be happy to help you. So that would be all from my end here today. I would wish you a happy weekend, and keep in mind proper practice, right guidelines, and that will take you to a high score. All right. Have a great evening, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.